That's right, the suspension on the car is done. And by done, I mean not even close. Not at all. But it's basically done. So, since last time, I've done some digging on what values would be good for things like caster angle and scrub radius and all the other things that go into suspension. And I came up with a grand total of nothing. So, I figured, well, engineers probably do analysis on these kinds of things to optimize, to minimize things like bump steer and that kind of thing. So I looked up different suspension design softwares that are out there, and as it turns out, they are quite expensive, especially the ones that provide optimization. Now, I want to optimize my geometry by computer rather than doing it by hand, because if I change suspension geometry in a certain way, I don't know what really that kind of effect that's going to have on things like bump steer and trying to combine that with how much force is put on the front wheels versus the rear wheels when braking or rolling, and it just all gets very complicated very quickly. Since I didn't want to spend money, and since I know a thing or two about programming, I decided I'd build my own. Plus, according to this Reddit comment, it'd only take a weekend. And side note, completely unrelated to the current conversation, when estimating how long it's going to take to program something, take your estimate and multiply it by 2. If it's something that you've never done before, multiply that again by 10. And if it's written in C++, multiply it by 2 again. Then you should have a fairly accurate estimate. And on another side note, completely unrelated to the beginning conversation, is the programmer's creed, which, let's be honest, is the engineer's creed too. Which is, we do these things not because they are easy, but because we thought they would be easy. Now, I plan to make this simulation in Python because I want it to be easy to use and be fairly understandable. I don't need it to run fast. It doesn't need to be real time. It just needs to work. Now, I had a fairly good idea of where I could learn the basics of building this simulation. Some of you will likely remember Anji the Great and his engine simulator. Well, the engine simulator is powered partially by a physics simulation. I saw the rigid links in his video and thought, oh, I can just take this and convert it to 3D, build a suspension out of it, and I'm done. Easy. He even provides the references and source code. This will be a weekend. After 2 weeks of not being easy, I'm done. The suspension is done, car's done, I can go home and stop making videos. Thank you all for watching. Bye. I wish. I have a working simulation, but there is still much more to add. And yes, I made a dark mode because I don't hate myself. And if anyone wants to play around with it, I've posted the code on GitHub. All you should need to do is open it in VS Code and run it. All libraries should be available in Python by default. Feel free to make changes and adapt it to how you want it. Now, before anyone goes and comments how horribly optimized this is, I am aware. I know there's 1,000 things that can be done to optimize it, but for an intermediate programmer who's doing this for the very first time, it's not bad. It does what it needs to do. If anyone wants to go out and optimize it, go nuts. I will spare you the details of developing the code and figuring out all the issues and how it's all going to work. But I will share one main issue that I had during its development that had me bashing my head against a wall for a few days. Now, if you want me to describe how the entire code works, I can make a video on that. Just keep in mind it will be at least half an hour long. But if you want it, just let me know in the comments. Now, to understand the issue that had me bashing my head against a wall, let me introduce you to this paper and this monstrosity of an equation. Equation 11 in this constrained dynamics paper is both the beating heart of this simulation and the bane of my existence for the past 2 weeks. What this equation is doing is essentially finding how much to change the forces from the springs and gravity so that the applied constraints are happy and stay happy. The issue I ran into was trying to calculate the Jacobian. The size was wrong for the multiplication that needed to happen. I was stumped. I posted questions everywhere. Reddit, Discord, asked people smarter than me, but no one knew. Eventually, I emailed Anji the Great, and I honestly didn't think he would email me back. But within 2 hours, he actually responded and even diagnosed my problem to boot. He is an absolute lifesaver. So essentially what was going on is I thought I had to find the Jacobian for all the points in the simulation, but it turns out I only had to find it for the rigid points in the simulation. This then fixed the size problem, and I could actually run the simulation. Now, I still had some issues with points deciding to walk off into infinity, but some more debugging solved that. Now, I can properly simulate a full suspension. Well, almost. Currently, the suspension can do this, which is what we in the industry call bad. I also need to approximate wheels so that I can get more accurate reactions from the suspension on a full car when it pitches or rolls. I think I can accomplish both of these by setting minimum and maximum lengths on springs, but that is for later. I also need to add optimization and being able to control the exact position of the suspension. Oh, and I also need to research and implement nonlinear springs so I can try and mimic tires, and add floor collision detection, as well as being able to control the angle of the suspension throughout its travel. So I'm basically done. Now, while I wasn't bashing my head against a wall, I busied myself surface modeling the body of the car. This is the progress I have made so far. I believe I have all the major sections mapped out on the body of the car. I am thinking of making each section of the surface its own part. There's still a lot of work to do on this, but it's coming along. Hot take. This is a wheel. This is not a wheel. This is a rim. This is a tire. Tire plus rim equals wheel. A rim is not a wheel. Now, after doing more research on the wheels, I have at least decided the tire. I think these look pretty close to in-game, and it seems like they will fix the mix of on/off-road that I want. And I've also found these rims, but I'm not a huge fan of them. However, I think I can cover them up by creating a plastic cover that looks how it does in game, and that can just snap onto the rims. I think this will be the best option to get what I want. I am planning to design and build the chassis myself. I am planning to make it out of square aluminum tubing, and there's a few advantages to this. First is that it won't rust, and it should be fairly easy to mount to, and should be pretty light. The only major downsides is that it is much more expensive than steel, and it's pretty difficult to rust. However, this will give me a good opportunity to get better at welding on aluminum, which I've never done much before, but I'll figure it out. I know it's been some time since I posted the last video, but I've been kind of busy by moving to a different state, starting a new job, buying a car, finding an apartment, and just figuring out life things. I'm mostly settled in, so hopefully things will be a little more consistent from here on out. I am hoping to get a video out maybe every 2 weeks or so. That should give me enough time to actually make some decent progress between videos. I am fully aware that in this video, the webcam has been kind of laggy. I apologize for this. It should be fixed in the next one. I'm currently using my phone as my webcam, and it is currently on a wireless connection to my computer, which is all the way over there. And this is my current recording setup, so please forgive the lag. I know it's not great. I'll have a wired connection in the next one, but just I'm working on it. Now, if you would all like to see a full explanation video of that code that I was talking about, just ask for me down in the comments, and I can probably make that, but it will be a long and confusing explanation. It will help if you have at least taken calculus for the explanation, because it involves derivatives and Jacobians and just scary math things in general. And if any of you have questions or comments on the project at all, just feel free to ask me down in the Discord in the description. I'm on there like all the time, so feel free to reach out. I'll definitely answer. So, thank you all for watching. I appreciate you guys watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.